So, Jenny Teufel, let me introduce you. Jenny Teufel is from the German Institute of Applied Ecology, which is often referred to as in German language, referred to as the Öko-Institute. Mrs. Teufel holds a degree in biology, and she completed her doctorate at the University of Freiburg in 2000. Afterwards, she was employee at the Forest Research Institute in Baden-Württemberg, and she was working on the development of analytical laboratory methods for identifying the origins of forest seeds. She has been working at the Öko-Institute since 2001, and initially she was focusing on risk assessment of the environmental impacts of the release of genetically modified organisms. Since 2008, she has been working on sustainable value chains in the food sector. And the focus of her work is assessing the environmental impacts of food products along the entire value chain and developing measures to reduce those impacts. In addition, she deals with research questions regarding the transformation to sustainable food systems, and she's leading the working group Sustainable Food Systems and Lifestyles at the Öko-Institute. Mrs. Teufel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very nice introduction. So let me see. Do you see the first slide? Oh, that's now this. So, okay. Yes, what I would like to present today are the results of a small research project on alternative strategies for GMO traceability. And as you heard, I worked on GMO, but yeah, I lost the track, I would say. My work is now on sustainable agricultural food chains, and so I'm working in this project on alternative strategies for GMO traceability. The aim of the research project is to investigate whether alternative approaches, in other words, approaches that are not based on analytical evidence, that can ensure successful traceability of a GMO can be developed. And we do this research project on behalf of the Federal Agency for Nature Conservation, and we are conducting this project together with our cooperation partner, the Federal Environment Agency, Austria. So, what can you expect in the following? First, I would like briefly go into the background of our project. I know you are all familiar with it. However, this background is quite important to understand the problem and the questions and the objectives we are investigating. After that, I just will show you how we did our work, what was our methodological approach. Then I present our results, and I would like to mention these are interim results. And I will do that I will explain during my speech how traceability is currently implemented in global agribusiness change. So, and I will go here more into detail on the example of soy. Finally, I will come and draw our conclusions so far as we have for solutions, and to come also to some general conclusions. So I'm a little bit sorry, I'm a little bit confused because I don't see my my slides, only very small, but I think it's fine. So what's the background? Why did the Federal Agency for Nature Conservation commission the study? You know, GMOs are subject to different regulation worldwide, and they must in the EU, GMOs must be labeled accordingly and may only be cultivated and imported after corresponding market authorization. So this results in the need for controls, and you discussed these days a lot. The problem is current developments in the approval of NGT products in third countries indicate that an increasing number of such products can be expected on the market in the future. And in many countries, however, such products are not classified as GMOs and accordingly do not undergo any or only very restricted approval procedures. So therefore, the availability of specific sequence information available for the development of an analytical detection method is limited. This raises the question of alternative traceability strategy to ensure traceabilities of GMOs along the entire supply chain So that's the background. So what was our work until now? We did, our work is based on a literature and desktop research. We finally, we looked how traceability systems in agricultural business change are working and how they can be established. And also we looked at different due diligence regulations that we have on national, on regional and international level. Due diligence regulations are quite important for the trade of products that we don't want to have, but products that we don't, like in GMO, we cannot see on the product if it fulfills the regulation or not. We were thinking about, for example, wood from illegal wood products, and for example, minerals from conflict regions are products, for example, that are addressed about such due diligence regulations. So we studied both traceability systems, existing traceability systems, and we looked and analyzed existing due diligence regulations and draw our conclusions. And finally, we conducted several expert interviews because we had a lot of questions and we'll complete with this and together with the answers and findings from these interviews, we are now working on a program for an online workshop in May, on the 26th of April, and here we will present the interim results and go into more details, and want to work in working groups on different open questions that we have. So you are cordially invited to attend, and you are welcome to register at my email address you see here, and I think you will get it also with the presentation. And please feel free if you want to contact me if you have also any ideas after my presentations. And thank you if you think to have additional information that could help us. So now, on the next slide, I just want to explain what do we actually understand by the term traceability. How is traceability defined? So if you look in the ISO norm 9001 quality management systems requirements, reference is made to the term traceability. This standard is a globally recognized standard that generally defines requirements for effective quality management in a company. And with regard to the term traceability, the standard states Organizations clearly have to identify their products and services with appropriate tools as long as it is necessary to ensure their conformity, and have to store all information on the documented results in order to ensure traceability. Functionality of a traceability system requires that the flow of information is linked to the physical flow of goods. This means that the origin of a product must be shown transparently along the entire value chain if it's necessary to ensure conformity. In addition, a so-called chain of custody system must be established. And what is meant by a chain of custody systems? So I will give you a little bit how standard organization defines the term chain of custody systems. ISEAL Alliance defines the term as follows. The chain of custody systems comprises a complete set of documents and mechanisms used to verify the traceability between the verified unit of production and the claim about the final product. So who's the ISEAL Alliance organization? The ISEAL Alliance is a so-called meta-governance system for sustainable initiatives and accreditors from the environmental sector. Almost all known globally active sustainability standards like the FSC or MSC are members of ISEAL Alliance. Now, really try to understand how current traceability practices for GMO works right now. So you know it all, but I really want to repeat it because for me it's quite important to understand the system if you want to look or if you want to think about alternative strategies for GMOs. So if products containing GMOs are passed on within the value chain, so-called B2B markers or so-called unique identifiers must be supplied. This information is not passed on to the end consumer. The information only has to be supplied to the next in the chain. This means the importers into the EU only have to pass on the information from their supplier. They have to label the GMO containing goods according to EU law, and the information is classically passed on via the delivery node, but the origin of the goods or information on the cultivation or primary producer do not have to be documented. It is not necessary because we have the unique identifier. According to the EU law, it's not necessary that we have other information, but it is quite important to understand if we think about alternatives or alternative strategies. So the problem of traceability does not only arise with the issue of GMOs. Traceability is of central importance for proving that, for example, agricultural products and especially globally traded agricultural products fulfill some sustainability requirements. For example, cocoa without child labor, or cocoa, coffee, palm oil, soy from deforestation-free supply chains, or organic and fair cultivation systems. So as well, certified GMO-free agricultural supply chains, we have traceability systems. And how does this system function today? So I would like to explain this a little bit in deep on the example of GMO-free certified soy. But first, I just will give you a small look. I think you are aware of that, but it is important to illustrate the problem that if you look at soy, in the main soy growing countries, almost only GMO varieties are cultivated. And if you look at the, oops, I'm missing one slide. So maybe I was too quick. No. but it doesn't matter. I had another slide that shows the imports from soy into the EU, and you see most of the soy imports into the EU are coming from countries where there's a high risk of GMO varieties. It's not a problem as long as they are authorized, but I just want to say if we have the problem of NGT and they are not, we don't have a unique identifier of NGT products, so we cannot know if that we have a GMO or not. So it's quite important, and I think you know that also, that we that most of own, or that many food producers and also some feed producers, especially in Germany, have switched to sourcing soy from European cultivation to guarantee that they have only GMO-free soy in their products. But we have also imports of GMO-free soy to Europe, and I would like to show how traceability is established in these GMO-free soy genes. So if what you see on this map is the way of GMO-free soy from Brazil to Europe. One of the production sites of GMO-free soy from Brazil is located in the Mato Grosso region, and all the whole supply chain is separate from other soy supply chain. So that means the harvested beans are stored in separate silos for non-GMO beans only. These silos are then transported to Porto Velho, where they are stored, and then they are transported further to the port in special warehouses. So, and in separate warehouses for GMO-free soybeans. From there, they are transported further by sea, and the whole supply chain is documented. The places of cultivations of the farms are documented, as well as the quantities they are producing. The auditors, they check if the bought seed is fits to the amount of soy that could be harvested, and every step is documented to the next station. So you have all the information from the farmer and every step between, and this goes with the imported good to Europe. For example, also the silos are clearly marked and they are sealed, and you have samples are taken at every step from this supply chain and tested for GMO presence, and independent and accredited laboratories are commissioned with these GMO analysis. And further transport to the next step of the value chain takes only place if the results of the GMO analysis are negative. So, you know, that's and this is and this system is a system how it works also in other supply chain for deforestation-free palm oil, for example. The difference are very minor. So there are standards. They have only paper documentation in paper form, but there are also standards. They're using digital platforms, and also, and that would be the next presentation. We have with the blockchain. With the blockchain technology, we have another method for the documentation, but it's only the method for the documentation. The problem is we need the people that are working and do this work and document the whole supply chain to build up a traceability system. It doesn't work if the people don't want to give the information where the product is grown and the way the value chain takes to Europe. So, oops, wo bin ich hier? First of all, I would emphasize also this GMO-free value chain is only possible because it's completely separate. So, and also that the producers that want to sorry, a bit lost because I can't see the slide very well. The importers that want to import GMO-free soy, they work with only only a few people, only a few producers, because they want to guarantee this GMO-free supply chain. And
Sorry, can you
yeah?
hear me? Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to give a little hint that we are a little bit close with the time, so we have, let's say, let's say, 5 minutes left, if it's possible for you. Okay, thank you.
Then let me just slip this one. The problem is when we have now a NGNT in the supply chain, we can't. We can only detect it, or we can only trace it if we have the information from the supply chain. That's the whole problem. And so you need the information from the producers. That means that we really have that we really have traceability in the supply chain in general, and alternatively, we have a lot of regulations that. Alternatively, we have regulations that also address supply chains that where we have to trace that they are that they really fulfill the regulations, like I mentioned before, the mineral regulation on conflict minerals and the regulation on legal timber. So the problem I see that market participants must fulfill the so-called due diligence obligations, and they must have access to the information about the whole supply chain. And this is, I would say, the problem for GMO, because we cannot detect a GMO when we don't have the information on the supply chain. So what I would give you for the, at least as a conclusion, what we really need is that we need more transparency in our global agricultural supply chains, not only with regard to GMOs. We have this need in order to achieve our globally adopted sustainability goals, but because we have other problems in the supply chain. We have the deforestation problem, and we cannot solve this without transparency in the supply chain. So my suggestion is to think these different problems together, and we need transparency from other reasons. So I skipped it a little bit, but sorry. I was a little bit confused because I didn't really see the slide very well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Teufel.